I still remember the way the light danced across my wedding ring the first time Armin slid it onto my finger. The small diamond caught the morning sun like it had been waiting its entire life for that moment. My heart trembled as his voice whispered, "This isn't just gold or stone, it's our promise." I didn't know then how true those words would become, or how that same ring one day would disappear and return in a way that would change everything. In the beginning, life with Armin was simple, quiet mornings, long laughter-filled nights, and the kind of dreams only newlyweds believe in. Our apartment was small, barely 2 rooms, but it felt like a palace when we were together. He used to tease me every morning while I made tea, saying, "If I die young, it'll be because of your tea." And I'd laugh and throw the towel at him. "Then at least you'll die loved." We didn't have much, but we had each other, and somehow that was enough. Until the cracks began to show. First it was little things. Armin started coming home later, his smile fading before he even stepped inside. He'd sit in silence at dinner, staring at his phone, his eyes heavy with something I couldn't name. I thought it was stress from work. I wanted to help, but every time I asked, he'd smile that same tired smile and say, "It's nothing, love. I'm fine." But he wasn't. One night, long after he had fallen asleep, I noticed his phone buzzing on the table. I don't know what made me pick it up, maybe fear, maybe intuition. The screen was filled with messages from the bank. Loan overdue. Final reminder. Payment required. My chest tightened. My hands began to shake. I waited until morning, then confronted him. "Armin, what is this? Why are there so many bank messages? What's going on?" For a moment he didn't look at me. His eyes darted to the floor and he sighed. "I invested in a business," he said finally. "It didn't work out. I thought I could fix it before you found out." My voice broke. "You promised me no secrets. You promised we'd face everything together." "I didn't want you to worry," he said quietly. "I thought I could handle it." But the truth was he couldn't. Bills piled up. Calls from lenders became daily. I started selling my gold earrings, my designer dress from our honeymoon, anything that could buy us a few more days of peace. And through it all, Armin grew more distant. He stopped joking, stopped holding my hand. His eyes, once full of warmth, were now heavy with guilt. Then came the night that changed everything. He came home unusually early, his face pale, his voice hesitant. "There's something I need to ask you," he said. I nodded, waiting. "It's about your wedding ring." My heart froze. "What about it?" He took a long breath. "If we pawn it, just temporarily, we can pay off one of the loans. Once the business picks up again, I'll buy it back immediately. I swear to you." I stared at him, unable to speak. My fingers automatically touched the ring, feeling its cold metal press into my skin. That ring wasn't just jewelry, it was a piece of my heart. The symbol of everything we built together. "You want to sell this?" I whispered. "Not sell," he said quickly. "Just pawn it. It's temporary. Please. Just for a few weeks." Tears blurred my vision. "You promised me you'd protect this. You said it was forever." He closed his eyes. "And it still is. I'm not breaking my promise. I'm just trying to save us." The next morning I stood by the window and watched him leave. The small velvet box that once held my joy was now in his hands. I watched until he disappeared around the corner, and then I broke. I cried until I couldn't breathe. Days turned into weeks. He told me he was working on fixing things, that soon everything would be fine. But one evening as I was cooking, he came home late, avoiding my eyes. I asked, "You got the ring back?" He paused for a long time before answering. "Not yet," he said. A few more weeks passed. Then one afternoon I overheard him on the phone. His voice was low, but the words hit me like a slap. "Yes, I sold it. I had no choice." I dropped the glass I was holding. It shattered just like my heart. When he saw me standing there, his face turned white. "It's not what you think," he began. But it was exactly what I thought. "You sold it." I whispered. "You sold my ring? The one you said was forever." He stepped forward, but I moved back. "You lied to me, Armin." "I was desperate," he said, his voice cracking. "You think I wanted this? You think it didn't kill me too?" I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him feel the pain I was feeling. But instead I just walked away. That night I packed a small bag and slept in the other room. A few days later he was gone. He didn't even say goodbye. Just a folded note on the table. I'm sorry. You deserve better. I can't fix this anymore. For weeks I didn't leave the house. I'd sit on the floor by the window, staring at the empty space on my finger. Every time I looked at it, it felt like a wound that would never heal. Months passed. Slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding. I got a teaching job at a local school. The children's laughter helped me forget, at least during the day. At night, the silence was deafening. I kept his photo in a drawer, unable to throw it away, unable to forgive. One rainy evening, a year after he left, I came home to find a small brown parcel on my doorstep. No return address. No name. Just my name written in neat, familiar handwriting. I carried it inside, my heart pounding. I opened the package and froze. Inside was my wedding ring. The same small diamond, the same delicate gold band. Even the faint scratch on the inside I'd once noticed after our honeymoon. My breath caught. How was this possible? And then I saw the note. I'm returning what always belonged to you. I'm sorry for everything. No signature. I sat there for a long time staring at it. My hands trembled as I slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, like it never left. But instead of joy, a strange unease crept into me. How did it get here? Who sent it? That night I dreamt of Armin. He was standing in the rain, wearing the same blue shirt he'd worn the day he left. He smiled sadly and said, I told you it would come back. When I woke up, my heart was racing. I brushed it off as a dream, until I noticed something strange. On the table beside the parcel were faint wet footprints leading from the door to the living room. But the floor had been dry when I came home. The next day I tried to ignore it. I wore the ring to school, and for a moment I felt whole again. But as I was teaching, I noticed something. Every time the sunlight hit the diamond, it flickered unnaturally, almost like it was pulsing. One of the students even asked, Miss, why is your ring blinking? I laughed it off. Maybe it's just catching the light, I said. But deep down I wasn't so sure. That night around midnight, I heard a knock at the door. Soft. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. My heart pounded as I walked to the door, peeking through the peephole. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint sound of rain. When I opened the door, no one was there. Only a single white rose lying on the doormat. And then I saw the note tucked beneath it. Forgive me. The handwriting was the same as the one that came with the ring. I ran inside, locked the door, and sat on the floor shaking. The house felt heavy, like someone else was there. I wanted to call someone, but who would believe me? Over the next few days, strange things kept happening. My phone would ring once and then stop. Sometimes I'd catch the faint smell of Armin's cologne in the hallway, though I hadn't had a bottle of it in months. Once, when I came home early, I swear I heard someone whisper my name. But the scariest part? The ring would sometimes be warm, almost burning. Felt alive. And every time it heated up, I'd hear faint knocks at the door again. At first, I thought maybe Armin was back playing some twisted game. Maybe he regretted everything and wanted forgiveness. But when I finally gathered the courage to ask the old man who lived across the hall if he'd seen anyone near my door, he said, I did actually. Last night around midnight. A man was standing there soaking wet. Looked lost. When I asked if he needed help, he turned around and walked away. But he looked pale. Real pale. My blood ran cold. Could you recognize him? I asked. The old man frowned. I think so. Wasn't he your husband? My voice trembled. You must be mistaken. My husband's gone. He nodded slowly. Maybe. But I know what I saw. That night I couldn't sleep. The house creaked like it was breathing. I tried taking the ring off, but my fingers refused to move. It was like it had fused with my skin. I pulled harder, but it only hurt. Finally, I whispered into the darkness, Armin, if it's really you, please stop. And for the first time, everything went silent. Too silent that I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow felt like it was breathing. Every creak sounded like footsteps. I sat on the couch with the lights on, clutching my cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago. The ring still gleamed faintly on my finger, catching the dim glow of the lamp as if mocking me. By morning, my eyes burned with exhaustion. I convinced myself I was just imagining things, stress, guilt, loneliness. Maybe my mind was creating ghosts that didn't exist. That's what I told myself as I dressed for school. But that day everything felt off. The children seemed quieter than usual. One little girl, Sana, kept staring at my hand as I wrote on the board. When I asked what was wrong, she whispered, "Miss, your ring is crying." I froze. "What do you mean?" She shrugged and pointed. "There's water. It's dripping." I looked down. For a split second I saw it too. A tiny bead of water sliding down the diamond like a tear. When I blinked, it was gone. I excused myself to the staff room and locked the door, staring at my reflection. My hand trembled as I tried again to pull the ring off, but it refused to move. My skin had reddened around it like it was burning into me. That night I couldn't eat. I sat by the window, rain tapping against the glass. My phone buzzed once. An unknown number. No message. Just the vibration. I tried calling back. It said the number didn't exist. Then just before midnight the doorbell rang. My heart leapt. Slowly, I approached the door and peered through the peephole. No one. Only darkness. But this time I didn't open it. I waited. Silence. Then a soft thud. Something had been placed outside. When I finally opened the door, there was a small box, black velvet. The same kind used by jewelry stores. I took it inside, my hands shaking. Inside was another note. "You never said goodbye." No name. No address. Just those words. And beneath it, a single photo. It was a picture of me and Armin from our honeymoon in Murray. We were laughing, snow on our shoulders. But what made my blood freeze wasn't us. It was the faint reflection in the window behind us. A shadow of someone standing there, watching. And I knew for a fact, that person wasn't there when the photo was taken. I dropped the box and backed away. My pulse hammered in my ears. I grabbed my phone and called my friend, Miriam, the only person I trusted enough to believe me. She picked up, half asleep. "Miriam, something's happening. I think Armin is haunting me." She groaned softly. "Hania, you're just tired. You've been alone for too long. You need rest." "No, listen to me," I said, my voice trembling. The ring came back. I got a parcel, his handwriting, his note, and now these things keep happening. Silence. Then she sighed. "Okay, I'll come tomorrow after work. Just don't scare yourself tonight, all right?" I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe this was all in my head, but deep down I knew it wasn't. When I finally crawled into bed, exhaustion pulled me under. But sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound, faint metallic clinking. It came from the living room. The ring. I sat up, heart pounding. The sound grew louder. Clink, clink, clink. I grabbed my phone and switched on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness as I stepped out of my room. The sound stopped, and then I saw it. The ring was glowing faintly, a dull golden pulse like it was alive. And right beside it, written on the glass of the window in condensation, were the words, "Don't forget me." I dropped the phone. My scream echoed through the house. The next day Miriam arrived. I told her everything, showed her the note, the photo, even the glowing ring, though by the time she looked at it, it seemed perfectly normal. "Hania," she said gently, "grief plays tricks on people. You lost Armin in the worst way. Maybe this is your mind's way of holding on to him." I looked at her, desperate. "Then explain this." I showed her my hand. The ring was tight, digging into my skin like it was part of me now. She frowned. "We can get it cut off. A jeweler can remove it safely." We went to the old jewelry shop near the market, the same one where Armin had bought it years ago. The shopkeeper, an elderly man named Rahim, greeted me with a kind smile that faded as soon as he saw the ring. "Where did you get this?" he asked quietly. "It was mine," I said. "My husband sold it last year. Someone mailed it back." His face went pale. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The man who sold it, your husband, he passed away months ago. I remember. It was in the news." The world tilted. "What did you say?" He nodded, sorrow in his eyes. "Car accident near Abbottabad. I didn't want to tell you, but I thought you already knew." My knees gave out. Miriam caught me before I hit the floor. Everything around me blurred, voices, faces, time itself. Armin dead? Then who sent the ring? When I opened my eyes, I was sitting in the back of the shop, Rahim handing me water. "When he sold it," he said softly, He told me he'd come back for it one day. He even smiled and said, "This ring always finds its way home." Those words burned into my mind. That night I sat on the floor staring at the ring. If he was truly gone, then what did that mean? The knocks, the notes, the voice in the dark? I whispered, "Armin, are you here?" Silence. Then a faint whisper so soft I almost thought I imagined it. "I never left." The lights flickered. The air turned cold. My breath misted in front of me. I wanted to scream, but something inside me said, "Don't. Don't run. Don't be afraid." I swallowed hard. "Why are you here?" The whisper grew clearer. "Because you forgot our promise." "I didn't." I cried. "You're the one who broke it. You sold the ring." The voice trembled. "I was trying to save us. I thought if I could fix it, we'd be free." Tears streamed down my face. "Then why didn't you come back? Why did you leave me?" No answer. Just the flickering light, and the faint sound of a heartbeat, slow, rhythmic, echoing from somewhere deep in the walls. That night I couldn't take it anymore. I took the ring off with a knife, cutting my skin, blood dripping, and threw it into the sink. "Leave me alone," I screamed. And for a moment everything stopped. Silence. Calm. The next morning I woke up thinking maybe it was over. The ring was gone. Water running down the drain had carried it away. I finally felt free. Until I opened my closet. There, sitting neatly on my folded clothes, was the ring. Clean. Polished. And next to it a new note. "You can't throw away a promise." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about love or guilt. Something deeper was tied to that ring. Something that wouldn't rest until it was understood. I went back to Rahim the jeweler, desperate for answers. "Tell me everything you know," I begged. He hesitated. "There's one more thing. The day your husband sold it, he wasn't alone. A man came with him, a buyer. Tall, thin, quiet. He paid cash immediately. But a week later that man, he was found dead too." I stared at him, my throat dry. "How?" "Heart failure," he said softly. "But he was young. No history of illness. People said he died holding something in his hand, a ring." My blood turned to ice. When I got home I searched Armin's old things, his papers, his books, anything that could explain this. Tucked inside an old photo album, I found a letter. It was addressed to me, dated 2 days before he disappeared. "My dearest Hania, if you're reading this, then I've failed to make things right. The ring, it's not just ours. There's something bound to it. When I pawned it, the man who took it warned me, said it carries a curse tied to promises broken." I didn't believe him. But strange things began happening after. I saw figures in mirrors, heard whispers calling my name. The night before I sold it again, I dreamed of you crying in the dark. Maybe that's my punishment, to never be at peace. But if it ever finds its way back to you, promise me this. Forgive me. Only your forgiveness can end it. I dropped the letter, shaking. Tears blurred the ink. Everything made sense now, the hauntings, the notes, the way the ring kept returning. Armin's spirit was trapped, bound by guilt and my pain. That night I held the ring tightly and whispered, "I forgive you, Armin." For a moment everything went still. Then the ring grew warm, not burning but soft like sunlight on my skin. I closed my eyes and felt a strange peace wash over me. But when I opened my eyes, someone was standing at the doorway. Armin. He looked just like I remembered, kind eyes, tired smile. "You finally said it," he whispered. "Now I can rest." I wanted to run to him, to touch him, to say all the things I never said. But as I stepped forward, his image began to fade. "Wait," I cried. "Don't go." He smiled softly. "You kept the promise. That's enough." And then he was gone. The ring slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft ting. I picked it up and for the first time it was cool. Just a ring. Nothing more. Or so I thought. 2 nights later I was asleep when I heard a faint sound. The soft metallic clink of something rolling on the floor. I turned on the lamp. The ring had moved. And next to it, in the dust by the window, were fresh footprints. When the storm outside finally calmed, I stood at my kitchen window watching the rain trickle down the glass like tears. My thoughts were still tangled in everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the emptiness that had crept into my chest since my wedding ring vanished from my life. I thought I had accepted it, learned to live without it. But deep down, a small part of me never truly let go. A week passed quietly. Too quietly. No strange knocks at the door, no late-night calls, and no messages from the pawn shop. It was as if life had pressed pause. Then on a gray Thursday morning, a small envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address, no name, just my address written in handwriting I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a folded note and something heavy wrapped in a small piece of velvet cloth. My heart started racing. I unfolded the note first. Some things find their way home, no matter how far they've been taken. No name. No explanation. I unwrapped the velvet slowly, and there it was, my wedding ring. The same scratches, the same tiny engraving of our initials inside the band. My breath caught. I sat down completely stunned. How? I hadn't told anyone where I lived except my closest family. The pawnshop owner didn't know. My neighbors barely spoke to me. So who brought it back? I spent the rest of that day pacing around the house, trying to make sense of it. Maybe one of the buyers felt guilty? Maybe the pawnshop got shut down and my ring was returned? But why the cryptic message? That night sleep refused to come. I kept hearing echoes in my head, my mother's voice, the sound of laughter. The day my husband slipped that ring onto my finger and whispered, "Forever. No matter what. Forever." The next morning I decided I needed answers. I drove to the pawnshop, or rather where it used to be. But when I arrived, the sign was gone. The doors were sealed. A paper taped to the window read, "Closed for investigation." I found a nearby shopkeeper and asked, "Do you know what happened here?" The old man behind the counter shook his head. "The owner disappeared last week. Police came by, asked questions. They said he was involved in something shady, stolen goods, maybe worse." My skin went cold. So the shop was under investigation. Maybe the ring had been confiscated by the authorities and somehow made its way back to me? But then why no official seal, no letter from the police, no proof? That night, as I sat in my living room with the ring in my hand, the power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house was wrapped in darkness. Only the faint light from the street lamp slipped through the curtains. And then, I heard it. A soft knock. Not at the front door this time, at the back. My breath froze. Every instinct told me not to move. But curiosity, fear, and something else, a strange calm, pulled me toward the sound. I opened the back door slowly, expecting to find no one. But someone was there. A man stood just beyond the light, drenched from the rain. He looked worn, like life had dragged him through 1,000 storms. His eyes met mine and I froze. He spoke first. "You don't remember me, do you?" His voice, it was faintly familiar. Should I? I managed to say. He nodded, eyes glistening. "I worked at the jewelry store years ago. The one where you and your husband bought that ring." My stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" "I saw it," he said quietly. "When it was pawned. I recognized it instantly, the engraving, the design. I knew it belonged to you. Then you're the one who returned it?" He nodded slowly. "I couldn't stand what they did. People don't realize what these things carry, memories, love, time. They thought it was just metal and stone. But I knew it was more than that. I took it before the shop was shut down." My throat tightened. "But why now?" He smiled faintly. "Because you were ready. Sometimes holding on to the past too tightly hurts more than losing it. But now, I think you've found peace. The ring belongs with you again." And before I could say another word, he turned and walked away into the night. No umbrella, no hesitation, as if the rain didn't bother him. I called out, but he didn't look back. I stood there, speechless, the cold wind brushing against my face. For a long time I didn't move. Then I looked down at the ring in my palm, and something in me shifted. It wasn't just a symbol of love anymore. It was a reminder of loss, forgiveness, and fate. That night I placed it back on my finger. For the first time in years it didn't feel heavy. Felt right. Weeks passed. The world moved on as it always does. But sometimes when I sit by the window with my tea, I swear I can still hear that soft knock, faint and gentle, like a whisper from the past reminding me. Some things find their way home. For days after that night, I couldn't get the man's face out of my head. The way his voice trembled, the way he spoke about memories like he understood the weight they carried. It wasn't just pity or kindness. It felt personal. I tried to find him. I called every jewelry shop in town, searched the internet, Even asked the local police if anyone by his description had worked at the old jewelry store. No one knew a thing. It was as if he'd never existed. Still, every time I looked at the ring, I felt something new. There was warmth in it again. A strange comfort that reminded me of my husband. But one morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, I noticed something I hadn't before. A faint shimmer on the inside of the band. The old engraving of our initials A+L was there, yes. But beside it, carved in tiny, barely visible letters, was something new. Forgive and live. My breath hitched. That phrase, it was something my husband used to say whenever life got hard. Forgive and live, darling. It's the only way forward. But that engraving hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. I sat down and stared at the ring, heart pounding. Was it possible the man who returned it had added it? But how would he have known those exact words? I called the only person who might still remember, our old neighbor Mrs. Doyle, who'd seen us by the ring years ago. Her voice cracked over the phone. "Sweetheart," she said, "your husband came to see me before he passed. He told me if you ever lost that ring, not to worry, he'd find a way to get it back to you." I froze. "What do you mean? How could he?" She sighed. "He said there were things he arranged, people he trusted." He didn't explain much, just smiled and said, "When she's ready, she'll know." A chill ran through me. Could it be? That night, I placed the ring on my nightstand before going to bed. I didn't wear it, I just stared at it under the lamplight. And as the hours passed, I felt something I hadn't in years, peace, mixed with curiosity. Around midnight, I dozed off. And that's when I had the dream. I was standing in our old wedding venue. The soft glow of candles, the scent of roses, the gentle hum of music. My husband stood there smiling, wearing the same suit he wore that day. His eyes were kind, just as I remembered. He took my hand and said, "You held on to pain too long, my love. It's time to forgive them and yourself." I wanted to cry, to hold him, to tell him how lost I'd been. But before I could speak, he lifted my hand and slipped the ring onto my finger again. "Now," he whispered, "it's home." When I woke up, tears covered my face. The room was quiet, but the air felt warm, soft, like an invisible embrace. I turned to look at the nightstand. The ring was still there, glinting faintly in the morning light. But something else caught my eye. A single rose petal, fresh, red, lying beside it. I hadn't brought any roses into the house in months. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The scent, that faint, sweet smell, was his favorite. From that moment, I stopped questioning how it happened. Some things, I realized, are not meant to be understood. The ring wasn't just a symbol of marriage anymore. It had become a bridge. Between past and present. Between love and forgiveness. Between what was lost and what was meant to return. And the phrase "forgive and live," it stayed with me every day after that. Whenever I faced bitterness or loneliness, I'd touch the ring and whisper those words. Slowly, the pain that had once chained me began to fade. Months later, I decided to start volunteering at the local hospice, helping families dealing with grief. On my first day, as I was filling out the paperwork, the coordinator came out to greet me. He extended his hand with a gentle smile and said, "Welcome. I'm Daniel." My heart nearly stopped. It was him, the man who brought back my ring. But when our eyes met, something was different. He looked the same, kind, calm, yet his expression carried no recognition of me. I stammered, "Have we met before?" He smiled softly. "I don't think so, but people say that often. Maybe I just have one of those familiar faces." He turned to show me around, and as he did, I caught a glimpse of a pendant hanging from his neck, a small silver disc engraved with 2 words, "Forgive and live." My knees nearly gave out. I wanted to ask, to demand an explanation, but something deep in me whispered, "Don't." Not everything needs an answer. Some connections are divine, moments when love crosses boundaries we don't fully understand. That evening, as I walked home from the hospice, I slipped my hand into my pocket and felt the ring, warm, alive, and somehow pulsing with quiet strength. I smiled through my tears. I knew now what it all meant. Love doesn't end when someone leaves. It transforms, lingers, and finds its way back. Sometimes through people we least expect. Sometimes through miracles too gentle to explain. And just like my ring, love always returns home. And maybe, just maybe, so do people. The house was quiet again. The chaos, the shouting, the heartbreak, it had all passed like a storm. Only the scent of cinnamon tea and the faint tick of the old clock filled the air. I sat by the window holding that small velvet box in my hands. The same box that once carried my wedding ring, and now carried a lifetime of lessons. It wasn't just gold anymore. It was something else. Something deeper. A knock came on the door. Soft, hesitant. When I opened it, Emily was standing there, her eyes red, her face pale. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She just looked at me, then at the ring box in my hand. "I didn't come for money," she whispered. "I came to say I'm sorry." Her voice cracked mid-sentence, and I could see genuine regret in her eyes. That same girl who had once shouted at me, who had once sold my memories for cash, now stood before me trembling, broken by her own choices. I didn't answer right away. I simply gestured for her to come in. She stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning the photos on the wall, pictures of her husband, my son, when he was still young and full of laughter. Her hands shook slightly as she spoke again. "Tom's been distant," she said softly. "He doesn't sleep. He barely talks. He blames himself for everything. And maybe he should. But I should too." I nodded. "Pain changes people, Emily. But guilt can fix them if they let it." She looked down. "Do you still have it? The ring?" I opened the box gently, revealing the gleaming circle of gold. The sunlight hit it just right, and for a second it glowed like fire. Emily covered her mouth with her hand. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I can't believe it came back," she said. "I thought we'd lost it forever." "Things that are meant to return," I said softly, "always find their way home." For the first time she smiled through her tears. And for the first time I felt something other than anger. It was forgiveness, small, fragile, but real. We sat together for a while, sipping tea in silence. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive again, full of echoes of laughter and the faint warmth of old love. When she left, she hugged me, a real hug, not one of those polite, cold gestures. And as she walked away down the old gravel path, I realized something. Sometimes life takes from you not to punish but to teach. Weeks turned into months. My son started calling again. Slowly at first, like someone trying to remember how to speak to family. We had dinners, sometimes awkward, sometimes wonderful. Emily joined him. They were both quieter now, softer. It was as if the storm had scrubbed their souls clean. Then one day a letter arrived. Handwritten, neat cursive. From a small town 2 states away. Inside was a note and a picture. The note read, "Dear Mrs. May, I wanted you to know the man who pawned your ring stopped by. He asked me to tell you something," he said. "Tell her I'm sorry. I didn't know it was love I was selling." He left before I could ask where he was going, but I think he wanted peace too. Sincerely, Clara, the pawn shop lady. I stared at that photo, the same pawn shop, the same counter, and smiled. It was strange how the universe tied things together, even broken people. Even strangers. That night I placed the ring on my nightstand and whispered a prayer. Not for the past, but for everything that was still ahead. Years passed. My hands grew weaker, but my heart grew lighter. Every time I looked at that ring, I remembered not the betrayal, not the loss, but the miracle of return. The beauty of second chances. The quiet grace of forgiveness. And now, if you're listening to this story, maybe you've lost something too. Maybe someone sold your trust, your love, your hope for a little cash. But if my story means anything, it's this. What's truly yours never leaves you. It might wander. It might get lost. But someday, somehow it comes back just when your heart is ready to forgive. The screen of memory fades to black. The ring glows one last time in the soft candlelight. And Auntie Mae's voice, trembling yet warm, whispers to the audience, "Hold on to your kindness. It will come back to you, like gold returning home."